I just dropped a hammer on my toe and I'm in a lot of pain. It has nothing to do with the video. I just had to re-record the intro. God damn it. That's a perfect way to start the day. Yeah. Oh, it's super hot today. Probably should put this away. Okay. I have the fan on already. We're not gonna have any need for it, but it's crazy hot today, and I'm actually kind of dying already. It's about 7 in the morning, and I have to get this going. I like to start off early, so that I feel like, you know, even if it takes an hour or something like that, then I'm, you know, done early. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna put in the frets into the neck. I have the neck right here, and I sanded and polished the fretboard. But since we're gonna do sanding and polishing later, I thought might as well get it quickly out of the way and leave it. I've also sanded the entire guitar body, but I've only sanded it to 240 or something like that. And the reason why was because there's a lot of videos, and I'm not sure they are, too many videos and too many long videos, basically. And you don't need to see me sand the body every time I'm gonna sand it, because once we're gonna paint the body, we're gonna have to sand it before and after and all of that again. So I've just sanded it enough so that I can glue in the neck. And that's, I mean, I could still sand it afterwards. It's just that it's easier to get the bulk of the bad marks and things like that out of the way. But I'll talk more about those steps when we get there. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I just want you to know, so if you think that you're missing something, or some steps in between have disappeared, that's just the things that I've done. But if you're curious about like how I sanded the fretboard after I had put the lacquer on it, then there'll be other videos coming later on the topic, and it's just the same thing. It's just, you know, on different parts. So yeah, today we're gonna put in frets. I just need to calm down a little bit, because as I just said, dropped the hammer. I was standing with both my feet like this, and it hit both my big toes at the same time. I'm gonna have to get better work shoes, because I'm using sandals in here, but that's just because it's comfortable. But I'm gonna have to not use that. You might have seen my feet in the other videos a little bit, and thought, oh my god, he's crazy. True. Anyway, let's jump over here and go down here to the neck, and let's take a quick look here. Okay, so first we have our coffee. Can put it over there. Hopefully it won't blast away. That's a razor blade we don't need right now, I think. So here's the neck. It's all looking good. We need to do a little bit of work on the headstock still. Like, cut out the holes, sand the back of the headstock as well. Yeah. So, you need a triangle file. There are a couple of ways to do this, and if you've seen other videos, you're gonna notice that I'm doing things a little bit different in this one than I've done in another. But we have one issue, a really big issue, and that is that we have a painted fretboard with a light colored wood underneath, and as you're soon gonna see, when we cut into this in some way, we expose the lighter color wood, you know, this beautiful color, and so when the frets are in, sanding the sides will not be a good idea. So we're gonna have to do things a little bit different, because if we sand the sides, you know, we take a file like this one and we just go straight up like this, like you've probably seen in other videos, then we're gonna destroy the sides of the fretboard. It's not gonna matter that much on a rosewood or a maple fretboard, because you're just cutting into rosewood or maple. But if we do it to this, then all of this coloring and all our work that we've already put into this is going to be destroyed, and we're going to have to re-dye it. Now, a little bit of re-dyeing is not a problem. We still have the colors, and we can always make more. We can, you know, but we should still be careful and take a couple of extra steps. So we're going to have to do a couple of things differently. Normally, I take my fret wire that I have right here, I bend it to the right radius, and I hold it up like this, put it in, bang it in, cut it, move over to the next, bang it in, cut it off, and I leave a little bit and I sand it down. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to be even more careful making the frets perfect, so that we have one fret for each slot that is perfectly made for that. And so, to do that, I've taken a scrap piece of wood and I've cut out, or drilled, 24 holes, because we have 24 frets, and I've labeled all of them. So we're going to create the first fret, not put it in, just make sure that it can fit there perfectly, just the way we want it, and we're going to slot it in to number 1, and then we're going to do the same thing for number 2, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we keep track of everything, so that when we go to put in number 1, we know exactly which one it is. Now, one of these blocks are super easy to make. I hope you can see the numbers. Can you see the numbers? Yeah, at some point I want to make one of these that is an actual good one and not just a scrap piece of wood. So if you want to see me do that, let me know, because I have some tips and tricks for you on how to make this into a nicer tool than this, but also it's just a piece of wood with some holes drilled into it. You don't need anything fancy, you don't need to overdo it or overthink it, you know, it's just a piece of wood, you know, scrap piece of crap, basically. Which I understand some of you maybe don't want it. Some of you watch too much Crimson Guitar and thinking every tool needs to be a beautiful handmade tool from the 1800s, and you know, if that's your vibe, go for it. But it's not necessary. You can make good guitars with ugly looking tools, as long as they're good. I'm going off on a tantrum that I didn't mean to go off on, but hopefully you've realized that I'm not editing these videos, so you're getting all the mistakes. And talking about Crimson Guitars is definitely a mistake, because there's always someone getting butthurt and think that I don't like Crimson Guitars. So I really shouldn't talk about them, even though you know, I'm a super big fan of Crimson Guitars. That's where I learned how to build guitars 10 years ago. I'm sorry. Let's start off. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Let me just take a look real quick. For anyone who is curious, this is 184 medium. So there you have it. That's the name for it. It's from StewMac. Since I live in Europe, StewMac shipping, you know, it's all horrible for me. So I bought enough for 60 guitars. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to build 60 guitars. I think I'm going to move this a little bit, actually. Come on. Like that. I think that's going to be a little bit nicer. I'm going to build a thing like this that I can raise up and hold higher, because even this is actually a little bit too low for me, you know, because I want to not have to bend my back and everything too much. It's not a big deal until you realize that you're doing the same thing, you know, for 12 hours straight or something like that. That's when you're starting to notice details, like how am I standing and things like that, which maybe we'll talk about in another video. I feel a little bit like I'm stalling. These are straight, nice, and we're gonna need to work on those to make them crooked and bended and everything to the right radius, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do, and this is one of those things that you don't actually have to do it. I've missed this step, so don't worry. You need a file that is like this. It's a square file. You can use a triangle file or something, and then you need to just come in here, and I hope you guys are going to be able to see. Is that light bothering you? because I feel like maybe that's a bad place for it. I don't have anywhere else to put it though. I hope you can see what I'm trying to show you. It's always, light is always an issue. It's like the bane of my existence when it comes to building and making videos on YouTube. Anyway, these fret slots, we can widen them up a little bit with the triangle file. We take the one edge and we sort of put it in there, and we slowly and easily just sand away a little bit. I mean, file away a little bit. And you don't have to go far. You don't have to go, like, don't you take away a third of a mil or something. Just open them up a little bit to guide the fret. This is not something like that you have to do, but it will help the fret go in easier. And because the fret tang, you want the fret end here, or the edge here, to lie as flush as possible and not be lifted up. And that's why this is a good idea. It can be a little bit harder to get the fret to be seated perfectly in there if you don't do this. But with a very light hand, just go over the area. I'm not putting any pressure or anything, I'm just holding everything very sturdy. Blowing away some of the dust. Just open it up. I don't know if you can see it, I hope you can, but we're getting just enough, we're moving just enough so that the original color can show through. It's not something I'm doing, you know, because I want to do that. It's just, I'm just showing you, and that is the issue. This will be covered by the fret suit, so we don't have to worry here. But on the sides, it can really be a disaster. So if you've installed frets and you're looking at this video and you're thinking, he is overdoing this, he doesn't have to be so extreme, then please keep that in mind. That I mean, I know that for a fact myself, but also I have to be a little bit more careful, because I'm not going to be able to it's a step. It's easier to do this correctly now and not having to go back and fix the neck than having to go back and fix the neck, you know. And since, you know, I have to put in the frets anyway, I might as well do a good job the first time around, so that I don't have to. I'm also going to try to fight my urge of talking throughout the entire thing, because I feel like I'm losing a little bit of focus when I do that. And yeah, I don't know. I feel I mean, we're getting into work, is what I'm trying to say. We're getting into the kind of work where paying attention to what you're doing. I'm losing the words I'm trying to use. Sorry. But you have to pay attention to what you're doing. We're getting into the finer parts of guitar building. Cutting out the raw materials and get like just planing things through a planer and stuff like that. That's the bulk work, the big chunks that needs to be done, but that isn't gonna really be that time consuming or attention demanding, if that makes any sense. Like making the frets perfect, you should pay more attention to that than anything else, basically. It's one of the most important steps, you know. pushing some wood through a planer, yeah, you have to make sure it's flush and trimmed and that everything is square and all of that, but you don't have to pay that much attention. The machine does that for you. You know? Unless the machine is obviously not set up correctly or something like that, but you know. You still have to pay attention, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that any of the other steps that I've done before this were like steps that you didn't have to pay attention to. But this is definitely one of those things where you just need to go slow and just let it take the time that it wants to take. And just, yeah. Also take breaks. For example, if you feel like, oh, I'm losing concentration, I'm starting to get sloppy with my work, it's better to just take a break. Drink some water or drink some coffee, maybe have a snack of some sort, you know, an apple. Keeps the doctor away, unless you're married to the person. There we go, it's starting to get there. There we go. There we go. Take a little bit of coffee. Just take a razor blade and just see if we can clean up this a little bit. There are like specialized tools for this, for the cleaning up, which you can make really easy as well. You can also take your fret file and just pull it through to remove some of the gunk. But to be very careful, because we don't want to mar up the fretboard. Obviously, that will be really, really bad if that happens now. We're far too far along in this build. But the thing that I like about this fret 5, and it's also a thing that is, you know, problematic, but I have the teeth can't cut any further down than what the tang is. So if I hold these up, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, because I'm not going to, like, then it, you know, the file cuts about 1/3 of a mil deeper than the tang. And the reason why I have that is because you really don't need to cut that much deeper. And also, you just need a little bit of space for glue, basically, on the bottom. The tang of the frets will bite in to the wood and be seated, and the super glue will help reinforce it. And you don't actually even need super glue if you're doing a good job and you're using a fretboard that has a wood that can hold the frets by themselves. Some woods are too hard. Like Wenge, for example, I would never not glue in the frets on a Wenge fretboard. But like, for example, on a maple fretboard or a rosewood fretboard, ebony fretboards, perfect for that sort of thing. That wood is soft enough to let the frets be and I'm cleaning off the file of every, because I really don't want it to bind, because if it binds I'm gonna push harder and lose control, and then it's gonna skit that across the fretboard and make a mark. And if that happens, then I'm in deep trouble. So yeah, I need to, like that. You see how I'm pulled a little bit extra? And if you get tired, you can just move your arms a little bit, you know, because you're straining yourself a little bit. Take some coffee. I'm actually gonna take some water too, because it's insanely hot. It's crazy. It's really strange, because it's not really summer. We're entering September any minute now. And the reason why it's a little bit harder to cut these right now than it's been before is because they're clogged up with not just sawdust, but with the lacquer and the polishing compound and all of that. So it is very easy to think that I'm struggling for no reason, but I'm struggling for a reason, and that is, you know, we got to get this out. And yeah, if you're wondering, I had to leave this to dry, so between this and the last video, because sometimes I film 2 videos in the same day, but sometimes I have to just sometimes I film 2 films, sometimes I film 2 films, sometimes I film 2 videos in the same day, because, you know, I'm just doing the whole thing, but I'm splitting it up, because otherwise it would be like too long, and it would be 2 different topics going into one video and everything like that, which maybe you guys wouldn't mind, but you told me you wanted as many parts as possible, so I could take as much time on every topic. So, you know, if you're unhappy, you have yourself to blame for not voicing your opinion in time when I told you to. You know, you gotta keep, if you don't keep track of the Instagram, you know, that's fine. I do talk to you guys over there more in a sort of chat way, but that's just because Instagram is pretty good for that in a way that YouTube isn't. But I also do community posts and things like that, and if you want to be a bigger part of the community and the channel, I suggest you check that out every now and then at least, because yeah, I am talking to you guys over there, or at least trying to talk to you guys over there. I realize that they are most likely not getting recommended, which is something that it's a problem that I've noticed with a lot of channels. Some of the channels I'm watching, I'm like, they never do community posts, and then I go physically there and check myself to see if that's true, and I realize no, they make a community post every day, and I just don't get them recommended. And I don't know if that has something to do with your settings for notifications, but yeah, I feel like YouTube should just have, if you're subscribed, you're getting notified of everything, and you don't have to think about it. You just get the notifications. You know, you've shown with the subscription that you are interested, and you shouldn't have to work harder than that. but you have the whole settings for your... I don't need to explain to you how YouTube works. What the hell am I doing? Clean off my file a little bit so it doesn't gunk up. And move over to the next. But we're soon done. Whew. Maybe I have a little bit more water since it's so bloody hot. Bloody hot. Sorry to all my British friends out there. That was not supposed to be a joke about you guys. It just happened to be. I just think bloody hell is... Bloody hell. It just sounds so fun. I hope my hand isn't too much in the way. If you've seen the other videos, you've already seen me do the cutting of the frets. I'm sort of just redoing it. Stay put. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. It's always nice to just keep working. Just, you know, keep your head down and just focus, and then every now and then look up and see that, oh, I've passed the point of no return or something. I don't know. Ah, scheiße. Got a little bit of a jump right there, but I hope the fret is gonna cover that at least somewhat. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. I'm not completely sure though. Ugh. The problem with the lacquer and things like that is that it's clogging up the file. You know? So that's why you have to be extra careful. Obviously, you might not be. You might not be. You might not be doing this to a lacquered fretboard. And you might also put in the frets first and then lacquer it. That's perfectly fine. I wouldn't do that to a stained fretboard, because obviously the super glue will seep into the wood and make it unstainable. And that's why we're doing things this way. But if it was just a maple neck, which you've seen me do before, I put in the frets and I either mask off the frets, or I just lacquer it, and then I can just, you know, remove the lacquer and all that from the actual frets afterwards. It's a perfect way to seep up the little gap and make the frets sit in there a little bit tighter, so you know. delay is a little bit troublesome, especially since I don't want to go. I want to be super careful. There is so much lacquer binded up in there. I do have that one thing. Where is it? You know when you have a tool but you never find it. Let's see if we can clean it up with a razor blade a little bit. Something like that, maybe. There we go. Two more. Two more and then we're done. Let's hope we don't make a mistake on the two last ones. Oh, the last one. Go. So, happy. All the frets have been cut. And you can't... I'm gonna have to move this light. Ugh, so annoying. If I put it over here, let's see if we can plug it in. There, maybe that's where I should have had the light all along. Can you see the fretboard? And it's beautiful, somewhat glossy, something. Okay, let's take a quick break. I'll be back real soon. Alright, so we have to actually remove the neck. Like so, and we have to clamp this thing in here. Now, this is actually, and it's kind of crazy if you think about it. I think this is like our first actual. No, that's not completely true. Actually, forget what I was about to say. Never mind. What I was about to say was that this is our first actual guitar building tool, like specialized for that. That's not completely true though, because this is the second or something, because we had the file for cutting the frets. Yeah, so what we need is we need to take the stock, and we need to basically push it through here, and we need to use this to roll it, and as we roll it through here, the frets get into a loop, and I'll show you real soon. I like to go through twice before I change it, and you have the grooves here. I hope you can see them, that's why I put it in like this, and there, and you have to make sure to hold it perfectly straight, because as you can probably tell, I got it in a little bit crooked, and now it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to align it correctly. I don't know if you can tell, but if you look it down like this, you'll tell that it's swerving off a little bit to the side. Then you take the fret and you hold it up to your neck, and I can see that this is not right, so I need to push this down a little bit more. And you want to go a little bit further. You want to make it just a little bit more radiused than it needs to be. Just align it, press it into place. It's hardest in the beginning, and then it's sort of just you roll it, and there you have it. And it's getting even more, and yeah, I'm going to just hold it up. That's almost there. We're gonna roll it again, just tighten this. As I said, you want to go a little bit further, you see, so that this is rolled a little bit more, because that means that when you put pressure on the middle, you will sort of press that out in all directions and get a neater fit. If it's too small, you'll never be able to get the ends down, and you'll have stand there and you'll bang on each side of the fret or the neck of the fret. You know what I mean, hopefully. And you'll just be banging to try to get them to be tighter and tighter and tighter, but the opposite side will just lift as you bang on the other one. So here we have the neck, and yeah, that's much better. Now I'm gonna need to roll the next one as well, because we need both of them. And yeah, since I put this one up, I can get this one in there, hopefully. I have to press with something to get it started. Get in. There. Just feed it through, try to hold it straight so that it doesn't swerve too much. There we have it. And for some reason this one got a lot tighter. That's okay. Let's just make sure it fits. Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but it will balance itself out. This is one of those tools that trying to bend it any other way will just be a headache. So get one of these. This is not from StewMac or whoever else makes these. This is just a eBay cheapest one I could find thing. I'm not recommending it because, you know, I think you should buy nice and expensive tools, because they're probably, well, not expensive tools, but you know what I mean, like buy nice quality. I don't know if it's nice quality. It's just, you know, like, you can make your own one of these if you have you know, the proper tools to do so, but it's just a little like a handle that turns a wheel that has a groove, and then 4 bearings. Like, this is not something special. I realize that some people think that, oh, I need to have these specialized super tools that are, you know, high end super, but like, it's just a piece of metal with a couple of bearings on it. You know, it's seriously nothing special. And you know, it is a good tool to have. So don't get me wrong. You should have it, but you shouldn't have to necessarily buy a super high-end, super expensive, like, I don't know, if you have to pay more than $50 for it, I think it's a steal for you. Okay, so I put the fret in here. I'm gonna zoom in, or at least try to. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so the tripod is standing on top of the box that I need to open. Well, not on top of it, but in front of it. Okay, so here's another tool that is also one of those things that I sometimes seems like, oh, it's a super expensive tool. And it's my fret and nippers, or whatever they're called. You can just buy like pliers that are nice quality and then just grind them down like I have done here. You don't have to overdo it. So we're gonna hold this fret up here and we're gonna cut it as close to the neck as we can. Just hold it straight with the tang and with a little bit of force, there we go, like that. And you can see it, we could press it in right away, but we're not going to do that because we need to work on it a little bit because we have a dyed fretboard. So I'm going to put this into number 1 and I'm going to pick up my fret and I'm going to move everything over and I'm going to align this with number 2. I'm getting everything as neat and nice as I can, no overhang or anything like that. Again, I'm going an extra step because of the dyed fretboard. I would do this a little bit more sloppy. I would cut the frets a little bit more oversized and a little bit more hanging loose so that I could file them down to size later. But I'm not doing that now because we're gonna do stuff a little bit different. That's number 3. And I think, because again I'm worried, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm worried about what I do, so I'm just gonna cut these down to size, and I'll be back. But I'll show you a couple of more. So that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the next one. Just hold the fret up there. You know, doing this super tight and cutting them. So, whew. And I'm probably also going to take a break between this and next because this is hard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as this is getting a little bit tighter, no, I mean shorter, because every time I'm cutting, the stock is getting shorter. I can move in here and not worry about the fret hanging around. But I'll be back real soon. Okay, so here we have a machine. Let me just change the angle a little bit. There we have it. This is for sharpening. This is a sharpening machine. It has stones here for sharpening. And we're going to use it to clean up the frets. I'm going to show you how. This is the sort of thing you'll see other people do on the neck once the frets are installed, but we have to do it now before we install the frets so that we can get it out of the way. Now, here is a little protective shield. I don't know if you can really see it, but there it is. And that's where I'm going to look. I'm going to look like this, in on this, just so you know. But you could also have eye protection on. I'm also going to put on some ear protection, and we'll see how far we go. We'll use that base there to make sure everything gets square and flat and neat. So there we have it. And we'll just go through all the frets and I'll show you what I do. So first we're going to take the first fret and we're gonna sand it so that this shape here becomes rounded from side to side. And then we're also going to sand back the tang a little bit so it's behind the end of the fret. So let's start up the machine and get to work. And I'll do the same thing to all of them, but I'll show you a couple. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so here you can see how I have sanded it down, make it rounder, and I've sanded in the tang a little bit. The first fret is done, and yeah, now I just need to go through all of them. And it seems like a tedious thing that is going to take forever, but just, you know, just have yourself a drink and non-alcoholic drink and just go through it, and before you know it you'll be done. It can be a good idea to have a little bit of water on the side, so that if you're holding the fret and you feel like it's getting too warm, then you can dip it into the water and cool it off. Alright, so all the frets are done, I think. Yeah, they look all good. I don't think I've missed any, which is good. Here's the first one, and we just have to place it here and align it, press it into place like so. Take our radius block and use it to press it in like so. And then let's see here, we can do the 1, 2, 3. We can do the first 3. I'm going to take the next one and I line it up and I press it into place and give it a press with a. And one of the reasons why this is good, I mean that this works, is the neck is just one block. We're pressing in the frets, we don't have to worry about anything. It's all good. Let's move over to the third one and line it up, make sure it's not sticking out in a weird way on any sides. Take our block and just press it into place. Something like that. They went in just like I wanted. And now we can take a clamp, so, and we can use this block to press on them just a little bit more, not overly like ridiculous amount, just, you know, press like this. And there's not going to be any tension or anything, just, you know, just press a little bit to get them in there. You can see that they are lifting a little bit on the opposite side. So let's give them a tiny bit of a clamp there as well, just a tiny bit like that. It's just the clamp will be able to press harder than put that away, harder than my hand, you know. And then inspect, it looks good, and we just lift it up to the side like this, and we just give a drop of super glue. We just let it sink in. Don't overdo it. Not, you know, a glob that runs down the length of it, just a little bit that can sink in to the side. And then we go back and we give another blob like so, and then we move it over to the other side and we just do the same thing here, just a blob that can sink in. Don't overdo it. Something like that. Yeah, there we have it. Whew. Yeah, and just take a look, see, are they lifting, are they staying in place? That looks good, it all looks good. Give it a tiny little extra press with the block on each corner, like this. They can still flex a little bit, but the super glue is going to help. Okay, let's move over to the fourth one. Here we have it. And just line it up so that it lies neatly and is spaced evenly. And just press it in. Take our block, line it up, press it in. So, and then number 5. And it's kind of satisfying when you've done all the prep work like this, and you can just line them up. You can just press them into place, you know. First you go gently, make sure you don't press too hard so that they get crooked or bend out, because you can break the wood if you get that sort of a thing going where the fret is pushing, you know. But as soon as you've, let's see here, I did the first 4, no 3, right? 1, 2, 3. And I can do 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more. And I'm gonna go back in after I've secured all of the frets and just add a little bit of super glue and just make sure everything looks extra perfect. Something like that. And you can press it down on one side, and you can add a little bit of super glue on that side and leave it. Oh yeah. Just add a little bit of super glue. We can move it over to the other side and repeat. And you can put some super glue in as well, and you know, but I kind of like to do it this way because I can. Wait, I'm moving too fast. Put the block on and take the clamp, and we're going to be able to do more and more frets as we get further and further down, because we're getting closer to as we're getting closer, the frets are tighter and tighter, and eventually they'll be. That looks really nice. So when we get down to it, we'll eventually have frets that are really nice. And the thing that's nice about this as well is that I'll be able to, when we go to the finishing work on the frets, which we're not going to do in this video, but because there's no point in doing that before we clamp in the frets. You know, I mean, there's no point in doing that before we glue in the neck, because we might scuff up them a little bit or something by accident when we go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Let's put in the glue. There's no point in doing it until we are. There's no point in pressing down. What am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, but I gotta be focused on what I'm doing. There's no point in working on the frets more than this until the guitar is finished and we're doing the final setup. Because when we glue in the neck, we're gonna have to put a clamp here. Might damage things. Hopefully not. We'll wait and see. I'm going to pause now, real quick, because the battery's running out. Okay, so here's the 12th fret, and I just very carefully put in a little bit of super glue where the inlay is, and now I'm just going to press this in and be extra careful, because I really don't want to accidentally destroy it. We are using different material right there. We might actually have to hit it a little bit, which I'm not super happy about. But we have to get it in there, obviously. And then I'm just going to take my clamp, just clamp this down. Make sure it's seated perfectly over the inlay before, and then just going to clamp it down. No. Not that much, like this, obviously. Then we're just gonna put a little bit of super glue here. That was a lot of super glue, damn it. Let's see if I can fix that before I have a mess all over me. If you're super fast with super glue, you can actually wash it off, but you have to be super fast. I was almost. I have a little bit right there. I don't know if you can tell. A little bit right there. Can you see that? Then we're gonna have to sand out later. Anyway, let's glue down the other side and try to be a little bit more careful. We'll line up this and we'll clamp it down. And then we'll try to. There we go. Just a drop. So. Up. And let's take a look. Put it down. We need a little bit of pressure there. I'm gonna move the neck around like this because I don't have time for the super glue. So I'm just gonna put a clamp. If you can see, you can see. If you can't see, I'm sorry, but I have to really focus on this because I'm not getting the frets in is that's a real issue. And I'm actually gonna just, because I can, I'm gonna put a I'm gonna put, I need to put this clamp here. And I'm gonna put this clamp over there. If anyone wonders, I did not hit myself. It's just very annoying to hear the sound of things falling. So we're all good. Except that I can't reach that clamp. I need to clamp that. Another thing that dropped. Yeah, I can't reach. Oh well. Fucking bullshit. Yeah, I'm gonna pause here now and I'll be back. So I have just a couple of more frets to go, but I got a little bit of squeeze out here on the sides with the glue. So I'm taking a chisel and I'm just coming in at an angle and I'm just giving it a tiny little scrape. I'm not pushing or forcing it in, just a tiny bit. It's probably not the correct way of explaining this, you know, tiny, but yeah, just come in up against the fret. Hope you can see what I'm doing. And just moving across, leaning into the fret, and just going along. We're gonna have to clean this up a little bit more with some other things later down the line, but I think we'll take a closer look at that later when we actually do the final steps. But so far, it looks rather nice. And yeah, there's a little bit of filing that needs to happen, especially on some frets more than others, but I think we can get around that. I don't feel like it's too sharp, just a tiny bit. So yeah. Ooh, next fret is number 20. Okay, so here is the neck right now, and all the frets are in. Whoa. And we need a little bit of work here and there, you know, just tiny bit of finessing and sanding. Some of them are sticking out a little bit longer than I would like for them to do, but it's all good. You know, we can take care of that. We can just put a little bit of masking tape around and just go in with the file and be carefully just remove that tiny bit of amount that is sticking out. And yeah, we are getting close. We have one more thing we need to do to the neck before we glue it in. We're gonna shape the neck once it's glued into the body, and the reason why is because it's much easier to glue two things together, you know, straight like this, than weird, crazy shapes. That's just not a very nice way of showing you, I suppose, but I hope you understand what I mean. We'll talk about it when we go to actually gluing in the neck. It's not yet. The first thing we have to do is we only have one mark on the fretboard, but usually when you play, you don't need that. You don't need anything here, but the side you do need. So we need to do some side marks. We're gonna jump into doing that next. But yeah, thank you for watching, and let's jump into the Q&A and see if you guys had anything fun or interesting you wanted me to talk about. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Hopefully you are liking these sort of videos that I'm doing. I understand that they could be maybe streamlined a little bit more, but I don't have the time to edit that many videos. It's gonna be a nightmare for me to make videos this way and film so much. But yeah, talk to me in the comments below if you want to, and also give me a like, and if you're not subscribed, do so I know that the effort of doing all of these things is worth it. And I'll talk to you guys in the Q&A. I don't know what I'm saying. It's time for the Q&A, yeah. Oh, hello there. Wait. We actually have a question for the Q&A. Amazing. Okay. So, Mr. Kite, with an awesome burning demon horse as his profile pic, asks how to figure out the best way to set up the fret bender to get the proper radius, that it's coming up quick and easy. I don't have extra fret wire to play around with. Well, you need to have a little bit of extra fret wire to play around with. That's the way it is. But the way you can set this up to make this a little bit easier for yourself, this is not something that I've done because I don't necessarily feel the need for it. But if you are on a time schedule, I get it, and you have to do things and you have to get things done, you might want to modify this tool a little bit, and I'll show you and tell you how to do it. What you need to do is you need to radius your fret wire the way you would always do. Push it through here and radius it. Match it up with, for example, your radius block. If you don't have radius blocks, you can use this tool as well. These little guys, you know, something that you know as the radius you're trying to get to. And then you have to push forward a little bit more, because when you install the fret wire, you don't want it to be a perfect match to the radius. You actually want it to be a little bit more, so that when you press it into place, it sort of flattens itself out. If you don't do that, you can. It doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it most likely you will end up with a problem where you're having an issue with pressing down the fret wire correctly, and it will sort of not really lie even. So you want it to be a little bit too much, and then as you press it down in the middle, it sort of forces the outer parts to go in even more. I hope that makes sense. You saw me do it in the video, and my frets look nice. So you have to bend the wire to that, and when you've done that and you know that this is set to the right, you take your angle and you hold it up like this to the wheel, and the wheel will be in its right place. You know, you will have some sort of control thing that lets you adjust it. And when it's in the right place, you take a knife or a razor blade. I would suggest you use a one beveled knife like this one. I hope you can see that it has just one bevel. It's not on both sides. And you use that to match up and get a perfect 90-degree line across. And then you carve in whatever radius it is. So for example, here I have a 10. Let's say I did a line for where the 10 is. I carve in 10. And then you use something like a permanent marker or something that has a fat tip. And you just fill it in, and then you clean off the rest, and then you get like a super tiny, super thin line of the exact line. And then you just have to, whenever you're moving, if you do this to all radius blocks that you have, you just have to move this wheel up here to that correct line, and you will be there. And you can just keep re-radiusing it over and over, and you've sort of modified your tool to always know exactly where it is. And it's not hard to do, but you have to make sure you're accurate. But the good thing is you only have to do it once. So if you buy some wire, you know, a length of wire, you can just sacrifice that and radius it to all radiuses. Start with your widest, so maybe for example a 20, then go down to maybe 16 and mark that out, and then go out to 12 or 10 or 9.5, you know, and so on. And then you can radius the wire back out to the one you're actually going to use it, and you can use it. It's not going to be that damaged if you do everything correctly from the beginning, and you sort of just... The problem is if you radius and re-radius in it and all of that. When it comes to like pre-cutting the wire before you're installing it, and before you radius it, it's much easier to radius a long piece of wire than a short piece. Your last fret on a neck is somewhere around 6 centimeters, give or take a little bit depending on what it is, and that's a very short piece of wire. It's about this or something, and rolling that in between here, as you can see, there isn't much space. So I would say radius all your wire to the right length, and I mean to the right radius, and then cut them to the right length after when you hold it up to the fretboard, and you just match it up. That's like the easiest way to do it. You could obviously do it and measure the wire and make a sort of jig for it where you have all the radius, length of the radius across the neck, and you can pre-cut them before. That's also an option. But if it's quicker or not is not... I don't know if it is, because you still have to do the work twice, even though you can sort of speed run it. Where it might get faster is in the setup of the end of the fret, because it is easier to do a round over of a fret before you install it than it is to do it afterwards. But then you have to pre-cut everything and pre-measure everything beforehand, and that does take longer. So it's a balance. Anyway, I hope this was the sort of answer you were looking for, and I hope it helps. Yeah, I'll see you guys in another video. Until next time, don't forget to stay awesome and cool, and go and build yourself a guitar and rock out with your guitar.